Hi everyone, welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel. I've got random rogue hairs sticking out. This is Saturday, February 6th. I hope that this finds you well. It's my friend Laura's birthday today, so I have to text her later and wish her happy birthday. How are you guys? How was your week? We are in the midst of sort of a lot of rain, a lot of gray here. And then yesterday, I'm coming to you from just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, here in Canada. And we had a beautiful day yesterday. It sort of opened up and we had some sun. It wasn't super warm, but that's this time of year. And then today we're back to gray. So lots of rain. It's kind of this time of year. The kids' principal that they have at school right now, so their principal, she retired at the end of James's kindergarten year. So he's now in grade 3. So this is basically like the third year of his being principal. And he's a big proponent of play outside no matter what. And so the kids have been coming home muddy and wet and lots of sort of mud on their jackets and mud on their boots. And I just keep saying to them, like, it's a laundry problem. Like, who cares? And so I think Nora's winter jacket now has gone through the wash like 4 or 5 times in the last like 2 weeks. So we've just been embracing it. We're going to try to go out for a walk later. And, we've got waterproof pants and boots and jackets. And I have a long rain jacket that's one of the Mountain Equipment Co-op jackets. They made them for quite a long time. I don't know if they still do, but they're meant for biking. So they have quite a big slit up the back for on a bike. But the nice thing about it is it makes an awesome rain jacket because it's waterproof. So yeah, just really thankful for all season and all weather clothing. And missing kind of that, what we always experience when we're at my in-laws and at my family in Ontario, when they get that beautiful snow and then the sky opens up and they get that sun. And we just don't get that here. And I really appreciate it when we have it. So how are you guys? No bad weather, just bad clothing choices. It's so true, Jenny. And the rest of it's a laundry problem. So welcome to new viewers. Welcome to returning viewers. Thank you so much for continuing to watch and enjoy the show. I hope that you find something here that is useful for you. If there's something that you're curious about or something that you're stuck with in your spinning, please don't hesitate to throw in a comment below the show here on YouTube. I do read all the comments. I can't keep up with responding to all of them anymore, so I do read them. I hope that you guys are sort of enjoying that interaction that we have. To the Patreon community, thank you for your ongoing support and your ongoing just sort of appreciation of the value and of the community that is offered here. You guys are the reason why the lights are on and the show continues week after week. We did just reach another quite significant milestone. So if you missed the post on Patreon on February 1st, please go and check your email and check Patreon and make sure that you're logged in so that you see that post about the Maker Mornings. And please read to the end. There's a lot of information in there, and it's just that first post, the first time that we're doing this. Please read all of it. I really appreciate you spending the time and doing that. And then go ahead and sign up for one of the Maker Mornings. So we're doing them in 3-month batches. So you can sign up once in the first 3 months. We'll see how it goes. We'll treat these as sort of PSA cycles, and then we'll do the next 3 months and sort of see how that goes. And we'll just keep adjusting as we need to. Yeah, it's a big deal. Thank you, Rebecca. Congrats on the milestone. Was so happy to read that email. Thank you, Rebecca. It was a big deal. Our next milestone is quite significant, and so I put it, it's sort of quite a bit in the future. We've unlocked, if you will, quite a few milestones recently. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the way that Patreon works, this might help people who are sort of not sure what Patreon is. So let me just spend a moment sort of doing a little bit of housekeeping. If you're not interested and you're not watching the live stream and you're watching this later, just fast forward a little bit. Patreon works by sort of offering an artist an opportunity to fund his or her work or their work. And so there's sort of different tiers that you can sign up for depending on what you want. So some people, like if they're a musician, they might have like certain tiers get to help with lyrics, or certain tiers get like the first copy of their files when they release them for their music. I almost said CDs, but of course that's not really a thing anymore. They might get to participate in the cover art, all that kind of stuff. But then so there's that part of Patreon, but then there's another part of Patreon which are what are called milestones or goals. And those are the things that the community is working towards. So it might be based on money, like an artist needs a certain amount of money to do something. And when they get to that threshold, then they'll unlock something, they'll do something, they'll release their CD, they'll pay for their recording studio time, they'll do that big mural that they want to commission in downtown, wherever they live, that kind of stuff. But it can also be community member driven, which is how a lot of us in the fiber community sort of uses it, is member driven. So I sort of felt like if we are getting up around sort of 400 to 500 members, we've probably got some pockets of people in different areas, like in the UK, in the Ontario area, parts of the US, and that at 450, so at 450 members, we would start doing a yearly retreat somewhere. So I have a vision in my mind of what this will look like. It would be very relaxed, very informal. But it would actually be like I would actually go somewhere and we would kind of come together as a community. So that's our next milestone. It's quite significant and we have to grow quite a bit for that to happen. At that point, this would probably be like my full-time thing. So there's lots to consider, but that's kind of what we're working towards. So there won't be any milestones that will unlock sort of between now and then, probably, because that's a pretty big one. And hopefully by then, we'll be able to travel a little bit and actually like be in the same room as each other. So that's really exciting to look forward to. Great question, Maggie. She's wondering if the time slots for the Maker Mornings will be the same for every 3 months. I'm not sure. I kind of wanted to see how it went. I'm trying to keep things off of the weekends, which I know for some people is the only time that works for them. But I have to consider school pickup and I have to consider the weekends. So I'm open to suggestions, and then we'll kind of go from there. Yeah, so yeah, got to move to the US or maybe a European tour. Yeah. I think probably what we'll do is the first retreat, I would either do it with somebody like Sasha, where we would come together, Sheep Spot, and we would do something in Southern Ontario, or I would team up with somebody like Erica of Weevolution, and we would do something in the UK. So that's sort of what we're thinking. It would be like a weekend, kind of like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. I fly in on the Thursday, fly out on the Sunday night or the Monday. That's kind of what we're thinking. Mike and I have talked about it. I've got it all written down. It's all planned. And it would be a yearly thing where we would actually come together. Victoria's got a great question. On Patreon, it says the live videos are on Sundays, but I got an email yesterday saying it was Saturday. So yeah, great question, Victoria. The live streams are on Saturday mornings at this time every week. So I'm wondering if Sunday is from when we were in the midst of lockdown and I haven't updated it. Maybe that's what's happened, because they're never on Sundays anymore. They were, but they interfere with so many things for a lot of people in our community. So and there was this time where we would get together with our families for brunch on Sunday. So Sundays are kind of a hard day. So Saturdays was the day that we ended up kind of settling on. So thank you for letting me wax poetic about all of that stuff. Sometimes we just have to spend a few minutes doing a little bit of housekeeping with Patreon, especially when we've had some new members and some people come in who are sort of needing some of these gaps sort of filled, because I think it's really important to spend a few minutes just to kind of reorient people and help people to understand kind of how some of this works, because it gets really complicated, and I can understand comments that are made online when I'm reading certain things. I look at a lot of tech stuff, not like hardware. I'm talking about, like, I look at a lot of like people who are doing this kind of stuff, but in the tech industry. And there will be comments every so often that like Patreon's too complicated or Kickstarter's too complicated, or et cetera, et cetera. And I can see where those comments come from. And it does take time. It does take time to sort of navigate it and to sort of figure it out. Okay, you know what, Ashley, Wendy, and Victoria, that's super, super helpful, because I probably just haven't updated it, from when we were doing Sundays for the live stream back when we first went into lockdown, when we all had to be at home and everybody was working from home and everything. I had to change it to Saturday. So, yeah, it just didn't work for us. So yeah, the live streams are Saturday morning. So in the show today, I have been spinning like basically exclusively two fibers that I wanted to chat about. One is Finn and the other one is Romney. I have no idea why this has happened. It's just kind of the way that it's ended up being. I guess it was just stuff that I wanted to do and wanted to work on. So we'll talk about that. One of the spins I actually was going to share with you last week. And it was in progress and it's actually finished. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And I thought that we would get on to my wheel just for a couple minutes and chat about this Finn spin that I'm doing, that's part of the Long Way Homestead Breed Study. And yeah, we'll kind of catch all. I did finish my poet sweater. If you're on the Slack channel, you maybe saw me post a photo of it on my dress form. I was really hoping that I would be able to share it with you today and talk to it. It's still soaking wet. It's damp and not very warm here, so it is quite wet still. So unfortunately that will have to wait until next weekend, but it's something to look forward to in the meantime. And yeah, and then we've got some community participation. I have kind of a bummer cast on. I had to rip it all out, so we'll talk about that quickly as well. Yeah, Kelly, that's new actually, the use your hands fun little sign. I was in the dollar store and Nora was like, "Can we please get this?" And I was like, yes, we can, but not for you. So, all right. Oh, thanks you guys. I'm glad that that's a good time for you guys as we're sort of clarifying. I'll look at the Patreon stuff later too and make sure it's consistent. Good to see you, Holly and Glenda, Dorothy, Sherry, Chris. Welcome everyone. I saw we've got quite a number of people here today, like from all over, where I've really noticed that we're starting to really become quite diverse in terms of where in the world we are. Like it's not just sort of North America and the UK anymore. We've got, you know, like Slovakia, we've got lots of different places in Europe now. We've got quite a few people from South America, quite a lot of people from down under, sort of, which has always been the case, but it's been really, really cool. So yeah, I welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Housekeeping. I have stopped posting all of the housekeeping in our show notes. I've mentioned this the last couple of shows. It comes up now in a separate post at about the 15th of the month, so that it has all of the links and everything for the Patreon community, as well as some of the public posts that are sort of for everybody, even if you're not a Patreon member, because it tries to clean up the show notes a little bit. It makes it a bit easier for Mike when he's dealing with the show, because he does all of the background uploads and whatnot. So that is in the housekeeping post. So that will be coming up on the 15th of February. And if you're wondering about January's, it is there. And it's linked at patreon.com/welfarepearls. So let's run the intro credits and we'll get right into the show. I have to tell you guys a story. So in Spin Group, and actually Jenny's here this morning, in Spin Group, we were talking about skirting fleeces, and then Jenny was saying how she tries to save like all of it. And she had, I think it was a Romney fleece, but if you can chime in, Jenny, I can't remember exactly if it was Romney or Jacob or something, but I know it was sort of one of those. Anyway, she was talking about how she had skirted this fleece down from 18 pounds down to 10 pounds. And the rest of us were just laughing because it was just like, oh my goodness, there's like so much fiber. And she's worried about like not having enough to do something with. And we were just killing ourselves laughing. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. And now every time I hear about people like skirting fleeces or like, Alberto just said, finally prepping and spinning the free Romney fleece, a portion of it, not all of it, because it's 7 to 10 pounds, and combing it by hand, which sounds divine. It makes me think of you, Jenny, and it just cracks me up. Oh, these huge fleeces, and we're so worried about like saving every last bit. And it's like, what are we going to do with all of that fiber? Like, really? Some of it may end up being stuffing, and that is okay. Oh, that's wonderful, Kim. So she received the field guide to fleece a couple of days ago. That's an interesting thought, Kim. So she said, have any of you spun your way through the guide? That is a really interesting question. So, I had this on my bookshelf for years. I bought it back in 2016, and it kind of just sat there because I tend to go to my fleece and fiber source book over this little bitty. But I have actually found recently that I've been going to this more and more and more because it's just a quick capture of the things that I'm thinking about and the things that I'm working on. But that's a really interesting idea to sort of try as much as you can to sort of work your way through it. Because you could sort of create a parallel diary, if you will, or like we were talking in the Slack channel this past week about how people organize their sample cards. So this kind of goes with her question, with Kim's question. If you made something like this, so this is just a straightforward binder. Let me hold it over here for you guys. It's going to reflect a little bit because of the light. So I'll try to keep it sort of somewhat off the light if I possibly can. But many of us use photo sleeves to organize all of our cards. So if you were to do a breed study and spin your way through this as best you can, I mean, it would take you years. Like this would be sort of like something that you would want to accomplish throughout your spinning career. Like it's not something that you would do in a year or a couple of months. Like we did with the 51 yarns spin along. But on the other hand, I mean, you could really kind of, you could have your samples of this breed, your samples of this breed. You could get little bits of stuff like kind of beg, borrow, and steal from friends. Oh, hey, could I have a couple of grams? Keep a lock to sort of keep it organized. You could have a lock and then your spinning samples. So you don't have to do like major amounts of yarn. But that's a really interesting idea, Kim. Again, it would be like a year long or something that you would work on like throughout your, something that would be going on in the background as you can get stuff. But that's a really, really fascinating idea. I ran out of room in my other book that I use, and I usually clear that one out and then so that I can start using it again. But this time round, I actually decided to leave it intact. I'm not going to take it apart and move all my sample cards out because it's a capture of COVID. It's a capture of all of the spinning that I did and all of the sampling and all the stuff that I worked through over the last year. So I decided to leave that one intact, and I might actually get some more. I'll just grab it really quickly. It's right here. Oh shoot, it's not there. I don't know where it is. My little book. Darn. I had it right here and now it's gone. I'll have to take some photos of it and throw those up in the Slack channel because usually I keep it right there, and I remember putting it there, and I must have moved it for something that I was working on. Anyhow, it's a little photo book, just an 6 by 4, I think. It's the size of these cards. The 6x4 index cards, and it's like now it's become like this like little journal of all the things that I was spinning. It was really cool. I like the binder idea. This is gonna sound really funny, and this is it's just gonna sound kind of funny. I don't like this, like all of this. I don't like the look of all of this. I like looking at one sample at a time. Which is why I like the little photo books where you just have the one page and then you flip to the next one and that's kind of the next one. I find this is a bit overwhelming. I think I like things. It's not that I'm like hyper organized. It's more that I just like to kind of focus on one thing at a time. So it kind of goes against a lot. So I use that. So I sort of file things after the fact. So that I don't have to look at it. I know it's there, but I don't have to look at it. So yeah, spin through the book, Karma says. What a fantastic idea. Would love to spin through the Fleece and Fiber Field Guide. What a great idea. You know, it's funny, like we had kind of come to a bit of a stall after we finished 51 yarns, and I wonder if that would maybe be something for us to think about, is to actually very intentionally as a community work through some of this stuff. Like if somebody has access to, like, I'm just going to use this as an example. If somebody has access to a Romney fleece, or maybe a few people, and we could break it down into like little 2 gram, not 2 grams, maybe 4 grams or 5 grams, like just very small amounts of fiber, and share that around and sort of help out one another with shipping and whatnot. Because if you could do it in letter mail and send it out, and we could all sort of work our way through, that would be a really interesting idea. Question for you. As a beginner, I'm spinning just to get used to the movements, and I'm looking at the results as I go. At what point do you recommend actually sampling with purpose? I think you'll know when you're getting to that point where you want to go to the next stage and where you're kind of ready to kind of start pushing yourself a little bit. You'll start to just kind of naturally do it. And you'll naturally kind of feel like you're sort of starting to kind of count treadles. You're starting to pay a little bit more attention to the twist angle as you're plying, all that kind of stuff. It just is a natural progression. Okay, so I've got my table full of stuff here. So let's start off. I have been e-spinning this Romney bat that's bigger than me, and you guys know all about this because I shared it on the podcast last time. This was my 2-ply sample that was really quite firmly spun, a little bit ropey, and it's not, if I hold it up on the bigger camera, it doesn't have kind of any like it's got drape, but it's quite, it doesn't have any elasticity. It's very firmly spun, basically. This would be really great jute. The other thing that I thought of for this was actually, because it's just a little sample, but I was thinking about like, okay, so this isn't really what I was going for, but what could I use it for? This would actually be a really good drive band. On a double drive, it would actually be a really good drive band. So I was thinking about putting that to the test just to see, because it's just really firmly spun. It feels a little bit like jute. And I thought, you know, I wonder what it would feel like if I used it as a drive band just to see. I don't know. Maybe it'll be perfect. Maybe it'll be terrible. I don't know. But I thought, you know, I could throw it on my minstrel and just give it a try, give it a whirl, literally. So that was my 2-ply sample. So it was way, way, way too firmly spun. And then I decided, I went through this with you guys on the podcast, and I made this gorgeous little 3-ply sample. And I had done that knitted swatch, which actually, unfortunately, is behind me on another camera, or sorry, on another desk. I didn't show it to my mom. It was going to be for a sweater for her. But I'm really leaning toward buying yarn for her sweater. She really only wears black, and to spin up fiber, to spin up you know, a sweater quantity of yarn, and then to dye it black. She says that she doesn't want black, but like the other day she was wearing a black sweatshirt, a black t-shirt, and black jeans. And like the day before she was wearing a black t-shirt, a black jacket sweater, similar to this, but with a zipper, and dark, dark, dark indigo dyed jeans. Like, if she's actually going to wear it, I need to go with what she actually wears. So even though she sort of thinks that she wants to jump out of her comfort zone, the reality is if she's going to actually wear it, it needs to be black. So I'm probably going to buy yarn for her. And in the meantime, this 3-ply and my knitted sample that I showed you guys last time is absolutely perfect for Fennel, which is a cardigan pattern similar to this by Orleans Souche. But it's got some big differences. It's a top-down raglan. It's secured sort of up here. This is Albini by Orleans. And the other one, it's got more of a V-neck. I can see myself wearing it and wearing it a lot. I wear this all the time. I may or may not have bought this t-shirt to go with this sweater. And I have a green one too that also looks great with this sweater. Confessions of a true hand spinner, right? So I was thinking that this would actually, it's 14 wraps per inch. It's absolutely perfect for that pattern, which is a heavy sport light DK. And I got gauge for that pattern. So I'm like convinced, but that also made me feel like it kind of put a fire under my butt a little bit, because I looked at this and I just thought, oh, I really would love to work toward that sweater. So I finished that big bat that we were chatting about last week, that one portion that I had taken that I had drafted out. This is from Disdarrow Ranch. It's a Romney bat that was made. It probably was meant for like batting, like quilt batting, or like I'm not sure it was really meant for a hand spinner, but Lori ended up with it, and she gave it to me, which was really, really, really kind of her. And so I've just been spinning it and spinning it and spinning it and spinning it. So I actually finished this part off. The bobbin, I could have put more on here. I just didn't want to. I was like, I'm ready for a new bobbin. So I got a new bobbin out. And so I threw that onto my e-spinner last night. And while the kids were in the bath, they don't really need to be watched anymore when they're in the bath, but Nora often wants me to sit in the bathroom and just kind of chit chat with her. What really ends up happening is she chit chats and she talks to herself and she sings to herself and she just wants me there. So I was able to get all of this done. So that's actually quite a significant amount. And for those who missed the show last time, I'm going to pull this off. What I've been doing with this monster bat is I've been taking the chunks off of it. I've been ripping them off. And I have been sort of to like realign the fibers, because like Romney's a long wool. I've just been attenuating it out and drafting it out like this all the way along, and then spinning it and then going to the next one. And I am spinning this worsted. It's really unusual for me, but I'm spinning it short forward. But it's not really short forward. It's kind of like long forward because the fibers are so long. This would have been a really lovely fleece combed. If it was still in comb, if it was clean and it was still intact as a fleece, this just would have been beautiful to comb. It's not worth it to go back and comb this now because I can get a really, really nice yarn, as you saw, from just manipulating it this way. And the nice thing is it does create a very airy yarn. The yarn, while I didn't put a lot of ply twist in it, I kept the twist angle a little bit lower, because Romney doesn't need tons and tons of twist to hold together and to be really durable and to wear really well. And so the yarn has a little bit of a halo. It's light, it's airy. I think the grist is going to be really high. And you can see the difference between these two yarns, like this tighter ply twist. It's not really, it sort of gives the yarn a bit of a ropey look, whereas this one it has a little bit more bounce and elasticity. This one, not really so much. It's just flat, right? Like you can see how it doesn't spring back, whereas this one, much bouncier, much airier. It's amazing how different when you spin things differently. And it's been interesting to keep the e-spinner going slower. I generally crank up my e-spinners quite high, and this one has been quite a bit slower. Like it's just turning more slowly. I have had it on the battery when I've been dragging it around the house. I've been plugging it into the wall, but I've also been dragging it around with battery, and it's not draining the battery as quickly, which is kind of nice. So I know, mind blown. Short forward. I never do short forward ever. And here I am spinning short forward, and it's not really short forward because it's so long stapled that like the short forward is like like it's so long. So it feels like long forward. Is that a thing? Can we make that a thing for these long wools? Long forward? Long forward with smoothing. So it's worsted. It's like true worsted. I'm just being silly. Mars, interesting comment. Yeah, so glad to see Romney in this format. I have some locks, some as locks and some as a blend with Corriedale in top. It's amazing. Like, I think some of these wools, we kind of like slot them into like it should be spun this way or it's this type of a wool. And they're so versatile, way more versatile than we give them credit for. So I think that's yeah, important. Um, am I admitting to spinning in the bathroom? Yep. um, yeah, fleece pen pals thread. I think that is a thing. We should make that a thing. We need to figure out what people are willing to do with shipping. Every time we start talking about this kind of stuff, the hiccup is shipping. So how do we do this so that we can do it via letter mail, so it's in like a little envelope and we can do it with just a stamp. That's what we need to do. Yeah, it's so unlike me, Diane. You're absolutely right. I never ever do short forward, and I talk about that all the time, that I never do short forward. Oh, sorry, Rebecca. My toddler heard with smoothing and now she's demanding a smoothie. You guys, so funny. We could call it the cookie exchange, a gathering of friends where everyone brings a batch. Yeah. We should call it the wool exchange. I think that's wonderful. So they kept the Romney stable, but just as a bat. Aren't the fibers cut short? No. So this was, let me show you the bat. This was really interesting. We always go down all these little rabbit holes. This is why the show is so long. This is the bat. This is it here. Lori raises, so this is Disdarrow Ranch. She's up in Tappan, British Columbia, literally across the street from Lynn of West Coast Color, which I think is hilarious. Lori used to be located in Barrier, British Columbia, which is just outside of Kamloops, British Columbia. For those who don't live here, none of this means anything, but these are areas of the province that are mostly, they're either cattle ranching, doing wine, so grapes for wine. They tend to be a little bit warmer. They do get a little bit more winter than we do. They get a lot more snow. And Tappan and sort of that area around Kelowna, for those who sort of know that area, has quite a vibrant textiles and fiber arts community. Anyways, Lori has a no-kill ranch, and she raises Romneys and CVMs, CVM/Rommeldales, and she's got mohair, and she has a multi-generational flocks. Lots of dogs. I think she's got a couple of llamas, at least one, I think, for guard. Anyways, she gets all of her stuff down at a local fiber mill, and this was one of the things that was done for her. And this bat is just massive. But when I say that I don't think that this was for hand spinners, it just doesn't look like a hand spinner's bat. And when I first unwrapped it and pulled it all apart, and Lori had given it to me, I think mostly because she wasn't really sure what to do with it either. It just kind of sproinged and was just this massive thing. I mean, I've spun about a third of it, so it's a fraction of what it was, kind of. But it just, it's incredibly clean. There's very little VM in it, like very, very, very little. Even like for bits and pieces and fluff and neps and stuff, like it's very, very, very minimal. It's just really, really good quality. But it probably wasn't really meant for hand spinning. It's just that we can. And because we can, we sort of like to try. So, and then it's just sort of a matter of not over spinning it to make it like really ropey. So let's talk about the Finn spin, or the other Romney spin, because this is sort of an interesting contrast. So this was from Small Bird Workshop, and this is from Vancouver Island. This is more Romney. It's very, very dark brown. If I hold it up here, you can see it's just this gorgeous chocolate brown. And this is a 3-ply, and it was in a pin drafted roving. Let me just put it down so that you guys can sort of look at it while I'm talking. So it it was in pin drafted roving, and it was really short. Like for a Romney, it was quite short. And then to be in pin drafted roving, it sort of, as I ended up, I tried several different ways of spinning it. And of course, you guys who are part of the wool circle remember me sampling and going through that whole process. Nothing really felt like it was working, but I wanted a 3-ply that would end up being a wraps per inch of about 14 because I wanted to use it in my natural shades along. And so what ended up sort of happening with this, because I spun it long draw and because I was spinning quite fine, so 28 wraps per inch, when I went to ply, I wanted to see side by side how these two yarns were going to be different. And so they're both Romney. They're both from here in British Columbia. And I just put a little bit more ply twist into the brown one. And you can see that it's just more firmly spun. It's not rope-like. It's not like that 2-ply sample, but as a 3-ply, it just doesn't have that same loft. You see how it's cinched down a little bit more than the 3-ply next to it that's lighter, the oatmeal one? This one is a little bit loftier. There's a little bit more air in it. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. A little bit more air in it, whereas this one's a little bit more firmly twisted. It's not quite so airy. It's very awkward to hold them like this. Let me just move over. So, you know, and you can see like you don't have that same bounce and sproing. Like you see how when I squish it, it takes a few minutes to kind of come back. Whereas this one is way more springy and bouncy. I don't know, this is about 370 yards. I'm not sure if I'm going to take some of this ply twist out or not. I haven't decided. This is washed and finished. The reason is that the slightly more firm yarn with a slightly more firmer twist angle, it'll wear really well. But will it be a bit too ropey? I'm not sure. It's a little bit coarse, a little bit toothy. I can definitely see myself wearing this next to my skin, but I know for some this would be too much if they were a little bit sensitive. And like the other Romney, it's got a little bit of VM in it, but nothing major. But no matter how I spun it, it had to be spun long draw, just no matter what. So then to give it all of that ply twist and kind of cinch it down like that, I feel like it kind of takes some of that woolen nature out of the yarn and doesn't give it that kind of bounce and sproing that would actually really make this just a little bit gentler. So this is what it would look like if I took some of that twist out. We just kind of bounce it up a little bit more loft, a little bit more sproing, a little bit gentler. So I might do that. For those who've never done that, where they've taken out or added ply twist, you just ball this up into a ball, into a center pull ball, and you just put it back through your wheel in the opposite direction. So if you want to take out ply twist, you go back in the opposite direction that you plied. And if you want to add ply twist, then you go in the same direction that you plied. So yeah, we can talk about that some more. Yeah. That is this hand spinner's motto. We can spin, so we must try. So the other two things that I have been working on is my fin. So this is, my fin is Longway Homestead. The last breed in the month that was sent out was Finn. This is what Finn look like. They're super cute. I've always kind of thought if I ever had sheep, I would have a couple of Finn, a couple of Icelandics, and a couple of Shetlands. That's what I've kind of always thought. So Finn are an ancient Scandinavian breed. They are short-tailed and they thrive in rugged climates. Their biggest feature is their prolificacy, and they will often have 3 or 4 lambs. So they were imported to Canada in 1964 by the University of Manitoba and are often used to improve breeding numbers in many farms. This is what their locks look like. If you haven't heard of Longway Homestead and her program that she's doing, it's Anna, right? Have a look. It's really affordable. It comes to you, the fiber comes to you squashed down in a mailer, so it's letter mail, and it's just lovely. Last month was Corriedale. Before I got Rambouillet, and it's 12 months, so you get the same 12 wools, no matter when you sign up. You might get them in different order, but it's all the same. So with this fin, I have been spinning this long draw as well. Like no matter what I do, it just seems to want to be spun long draw. So what I have been doing with this, it's on my Kromsky Minstrel. I'll see if I can get this so that you can really see. I'd have to turn this a little bit. It's very woolly. It's spinning up very, very woolly. You know, I've had to go back and double draft quite a bit and get some of the thick spots out. I was playing a little bit. Let me move my head here so that you guys can see. I was playing a little bit with, so this is American long draw. I always get them mixed up, where you're sort of drafting against the twist and sort of slowly going backward. And some people find that they can't get like a consistent yarn with that. So other people do English long draw, where you actually build up the twist and then draft out a certain amount of fiber, and then double draft some of the sections and wind on. Neither are correct, neither are right. It depends on the fiber and what works for you. So if we build up the twist here, kind of like you do on a supported spindle, and then you draw out, try and draw out the same amount of fiber every time, and then wind on. I like this way of spinning when I'm really trying to be very consistent. You count treadles, it's very lovely, you get into this lovely rhythm. When I was working on my long draw consistency with my friend Kim a couple of summers ago, I found this really, really relaxing. I have been finding with the other fin that I've been working on, so we'll talk about that in just a sec. I tend to kind of drip, I call it like the drip method, like pinch and pull. You're kind of pinching and pulling. Yeah, I just hope I have them straight. Kelly said, holy crap, I didn't know there was a difference. Yeah, there is. I just hope that I'm explaining them correctly, because I always get them mixed up. So, and actually, funnily enough, in the most recent episode of, I always call them episodes. In the most recent Ply magazine art issue, which was Warmth, that was the first time that I personally have seen a recommendation where one would be better than the other. So there was a chart on page 10. How can you tell I was looking at this yesterday? That actually said, yo, here's the fiber American long draw. Here's the fiber English long draw. And that was the first time I had seen that. And it actually made me, I came to the wheel almost immediately. I had it here on my desk and I came to the table and I was like, how am I spinning these? Because I go back and forth between the two depending on the fiber. And yeah, and I sort of had to think about, okay, which is which. So Josephine Walton, she has a wonderful video. I will see if I can find it later and I will link it for you, of her spinning English long draw on her Roadbug. I've put it in the How I Spin content for March. And I thought it was really, her just sitting there spinning, I mean, I could watch her all day. So yeah, there's several different ways of spinning long draw, but those are kind of the two. Yeah. We have talked, actually, I think it was Eve. I'm not sure if she's here today. I haven't seen her in the chat yet. But she actually had asked me a while ago if we could go through the differences, and I didn't feel super confident going through them because I was still chatting with Kim about sort of, you know, treadle, draw, treadle, double draft. Like, you know, you sort of have to like work through this stuff. So it's been really helpful to have this other fin on my wheel. This is the Bullseye. This is actually January's giveaway. This was Finn and Silk Bullseye from my friend Liz of Kingdom. So I have actually spun the first half, and it's actually wound onto weaving bobbins to store because I'm running out of bobbins because I've got quite a few projects going on right now. And I have been spinning this with the sort of pinch pull back method, sort of American long draw. So, and it's going really well. And I think part of why it's working so well is because the silk in this is, I think it's 60-40. I don't know if Liz is here today, but I think it's 60-40. The silk content of this just makes it, it's just drafting so evenly that I think either method would work well. But I've just been you know, just kind of in this lovely rhythm with it. So very, very different preps, very different fibers because of the silk content in this, even though they're both pin drafted roving, which is so interesting. This one's quite a bit smoother. It's quite a bit more, when you pre-draft it, it's more like comb top kind of. They're both natural shades, neither are dyed. This one is a little bit more woolly, kind of more like what I would call like true roving. There's a couple of places where there's some naps, places where it caught on the carter. I think this must be mixed fleece. I think this must be multiple fleeces because there's some areas that are quite dark as you're spinning, and then there's some areas that are sort of more white. And Finn they do come in colors. They're not all perfect white. You can see here, there's a photo of quite a dark brown one there. And the white isn't sort of that really white that you see with merino. So really fun. I'm really enjoying it. I had tagged Finn sheep in here. I think we talked about this last time. So the fleece weighs between 4 and 8 pounds. So not super, super, super heavy, but not super light. Staple length 3 to 6 inches, which is why you can both card it and comb it. And it natural colors white, black, gray, and occasionally you'll find brown. Micron count is between 22 and 23. So I know with the lamb's fleeces, they tend to be much finer, and then you can get slightly toothier adult fleeces. Oh, Dorothy, great question. What is a good breed or breed type to really learn long draw on from a carded prep? So definitely go with carded. If you're going to try to learn long draw, don't start playing around with trying to do long draw off of comb top if you're just learning. And I think the downs, that's how I realized that, that was how I really kind of honed in on my long draw, was spinning the downs. Yeah. So let's talk about let me make sure I have my camera in the right spot here. So one of the projects that I wanted to talk about was my Gotland spin. So this, Hannah very, very kindly gifted me the Aurelius pattern by Jennifer Stein. Oh shoot, what's her name? Stein. I'm going to totally blank on her name. Oh my goodness, you guys. What is her name? It was very kind of Hannah, so thank you so much. Jennifer Steingass. And this is my spindle spin. So this is for my sweater spin. So the reason why I wanted to choose a pattern for this was to know what to spin this to. So this is going to be a heavy sport light DK, 2-ply, and I have actually finished spinning the first quarter of the braid. This is Spunky Eclectic thread box. This is from December of 2020. And this is Gotland, so dyed Gotland. Isn't that beautiful? Love this. So I broke the braid down into quarters. So I have another quarter here, and I have another quarter here. So this is half of it. And the reason that I did that was because Gotland is quite heavy, and I don't want this to be a really heavy overspun yarn. And Gotland doesn't need tons and tons of twists to be structurally sound. So I divided it up into quarters. So each quarter is kind of going into a turtle. And then what I did when I finished a turtle, I wound it onto a weaving bobbin. So this is my first turtle completely done. So my singles, I'm spinning to 21 wraps per inch for a finished 2-ply of 14 wraps per inch. So that's the first one. This is the second one. It's almost done. I only have 4 little bundles left. And I'll wind that off, and then I'll do the next one. I'll wind that off, and then I will do a 2-ply, and I'll try and sort of mix them up a little bit as I go. So that is what I've been working on for that. And this will be the color work in that sweater. I'll link the sweater for you guys. This is such a beautiful pattern. So it has color work in the yoke, and then there is color work on the sleeves. I don't know if I'll have enough yardage, but I'll do the color work in the yoke for sure. And then the background color of the sweater will be just plain gray Gotland, and this will all be spindle spun. So this is one of my Make 9 projects for 2021. It might go into 2022, in all honesty, but if I can get the spinning done, I've been pretty diligent about spinning on the spindle for about 5 to 10 minutes every day. I've just been really intentional and trying to really make room for it and keeping this project out, like not putting this away, keeping it out. I've been keeping these, the next 2, I've been keeping them out on my desk where I can see them. And then the project I've been dragging around with me everywhere in my little bag, and really trying to get one of the nests done every day. And the reason for that is because I really love spindle spinning and I don't make it a priority. Even the other day during book club, I could have been sitting there spindle spinning, but I was spinning on my wheels. And actually, unfortunately, I had ordered for my Lendrum Saxony 6 bobbins. So there's the 3 that come with the wheel, and then I had ordered another 3 because I figured like I'm kind of have like one shot at this. I may as well get the number of bobbins that I want. So for, what was my rationale? 2 3-plies at the same time. That was my rationale. And I just went to put the 6th one on yesterday during book club. I'm sure they were wondering what I was doing and why I was moving around so much. But the bobbin didn't fit. So it's the last one of the 6, and it literally doesn't fit on the flyer shaft. So I had to send them an email. So I'm waiting to hear back from Gord. Megan, dyed Gotland. Absolutely. It's so amazing. Actually, I may as well show you guys. These are all of my Finn bobbins ready to be plied. So these are, this is half of the carded prep from Liz from Kingdom, and I've just been storing them on here. My dad built this for me, actually. He modeled it off of the same little weaving bobbin stand that my friend Kim has. She had lent it to me, and he did a prototype of it and made me one. So it's very, very heavy. He used very heavy wood for it. It was leftover oak, and yeah, it has a special place in my heart. So the last thing I wanted to chat about actually was my cathedral pullover. So this is a pattern by WnS Toronto. She releases patterns all the time. So if you're interested, she has some very classic lines, classic look. This is my 3-ply CVM that, again, Liz processed for me. And I have all the photos here. I was about 6 inches up the body, and I had chosen to cast on the size for the 30, it was like 36.6. It was a weird number, but it was basically a 37-inch bust because I wanted something a little bit looser. I've gained some weight, which is a good thing. I just wanted lots of ease. So I used the tube, the try it on tubing that Charlotte had sent me, and it was like 8 inches too big. Like it wasn't even like somewhat within. And the funny thing is the reason why I wanted to show you these photos, I got gauge. So like it wasn't like I didn't have gauge, and I checked it before I ripped it out. I was like, why is this so big? Like it was, when I laid it out to measure it, like the body was like 42 inches or something. Like it was like way too big around. To the point where it wasn't like I put it on me and like it's just too much fabric and too much. This is a DK, about 12 wraps per inch. So I ripped it all out. I had nothing but failures this week with my knitting. Like there was just nothing but, like, I cast on something else, it got ripped out, cast this on, it got ripped out. So I'm back down to the beginning. I've only done the first 3 rows, which is fine. I was just bummed. I also have to spin more for this. So this is one of those projects that it'll be spin, knit, spin, knit. And the reason for doing that, because I said after this sweater that I would not do that again. The reason is because I don't want to use all of the fiber for this project. I would like to use some of this for something else. And so I only want to spin enough for the sweater plus a little bit extra. So just a bummer. Yeah, you have to swatch. I often don't swatch when it's a commercial yarn. I'm really terrible. But totally, nothing flows and then you're over it and everything works out fine after that. It's so true, Diane. Like some weeks are just kind of a bit frustrating. I cast on something else and it was just like, what is going on? Like I just couldn't get it to work no matter what I did. And like, I'm a pretty good knitter and it just, so really quickly, this was the short forward for the Romney. I forgot that it was still here. So if you guys, when I talk about doing short forward and then I don't do it very often, like this is, this is so unusual for me to be spinning like this. So, oh, interesting, Jenny. So she's knit the Dream sweater from WnS and it's really big too. Huh. So I actually, cast on the smaller size and it's working up a little bit better, but I'm just, maybe it's just kind of how they do things. Like maybe it's just how they measure things. So I've been keeping a 25% success rate with my knitting this winter. Oh, Wendy, I feel you. I feel like I'm in that same boat. Finally received my first turtle spindle today. Not really doing my spindle spin, not doing really well. You know, it's practice. It's practice. And some spindles are definitely heavier than others. So Samantha, if you got access to a slightly lighter one, measure it too. Like these Turtle Made ones are about 33 to 35 grams. The one that Katrina's husband Eric made for me is about, I think it's about 30 grams. I love it. It's my favorite spindle. I've been saving it for the undyed gotland because I'm going to spin them side by side. I was going to start that today. Somebody had asked if I have a source for undyed gotland, Birkeland Brothers. They do. Danielle has just beautiful prepped gray gotland. Yeah, definitely check out Birkeland Brothers. What do we have next? We have community participation. So for February, tell us about your garment fitting issues. It's the month of love and we love our knitting, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. So tell us about your garment fitting issues for February. I will be sending out one of the try it on tubings that Charlotte gifted to the podcast. So share in the episode thread on Ravelry. The link is here. I'll throw it into the live chat for people who are watching later. Or you can just comment here on YouTube. Don't put your comment in the live chat. If you're watching right now, you need to actually comment. And then I can tally up all of those comments and I can send that out to you in March. For January, we were giving away the other half of the Finn and silk that was from Liz. So she sent me 2, which was really kind of her. And one of them was to go out to you guys. So I did a tally. I think it was something like 104 or 105 comments, threw them into the random number generator. So some of those comments were on Ravelry, some of them were from YouTube, and I just kind of tallied them all up. And the winner was one of the YouTube comments, and it was from Jennifer Olson, who's an active member of our community. She's always leaving comments on YouTube for us. And her most recent spin is a 2-ply worsted merino. One strand is kind of a jade blue, and the other strand is a transition from yellow to pink to purple. Kind of a bit of, almost sounds like a bit of a fractal kind of. This makes a pastel gradient color change. Have yet to give it a finishing wash and not sure what I'll make out of it yet, but enjoyed seeing it evolve from color piles of fluff. Thanks for continuing to inspire all of us to keep growing and learning. Stay safe and hope all is well. Thank you, Jennifer. That's very kind. So I'm happy to send that out to you, Jennifer. Jennifer Olson, if you could send me your mailing address, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. And you can do that on YouTube. Actually, if you could send that to me via Ravelry or actually just send it to my email address, rachel@wealthforpearls.com. If you're ever wanting to get in touch with me, but you're not on Ravelry, you're not on Patreon, and you're sort of wondering how to get in touch with me, just send me an email, rachel@wealthforpearls.com. And I'm always happy to chat. So, community participation. We have some breed and color study. We have Martha, who's in the chat today. Martha Mew. So she shared this on Slack, and this is the beginning of the breed and color study for the Shetland. So we're doing Shetland right now in the community. We're looking at colors of, actually we're looking at the colors in my shirt. We're looking at pinks and purples, navy blue, black. The black is really key here. So it's not just the natural shades that we're looking at how black affects these colors as well. So in the original braids that Katrina dyed, there's black in there and there's navy blue. And we're looking at how these shades affect our overall spinning and how they affect our overall yarns. So before, we've looked at black in the past, we've looked at white in the past. So now this time around, we're substituting the white for the natural shade of the underlying color. So that's what we're doing right now for breed and color. And this will run until the end of June. And the pre-orders have closed. Katrina is getting that all sorted out. And everybody who ordered fiber back in January, that stuff is on its way. So this is part 1 of my Shetland study. I dyed this fiber myself and had great fun doing it. I added each strip of each color into the dye pot at the same time, so they are all exactly the same. I took the 3 braids and took a strip off each, maybe about a fourth of the total width of each braid. Each of these strips I then stripped again into 3 and spun each colorway to its own bobbin from the same end. So basically she was very consistent in what she did. So she took the original braids, split them into quarters, and then each one of those quarters she split 3 more times and then spun the 3 colorways together. So she had the mouret, the oatmeal, and the white on separate bobbins and then plied them together. Taking 1 strand from each bobbin to create this 15 wraps per inch heavy fingering light sport yarn, 56 grams. And yeah, beautiful. I love it. I love that 3-ply. I'm actually spinning the 3rd bobbin for my first yarn, and I'm doing a fractal, and I'm really enjoying how the colors are spinning up. It's been really, really, really fun. Just want to keep up with chat. So Karen, as you're plying, remember, because you're saying you don't like the results so far. So remember that when you're plying, you can change the twist angle. So it doesn't have to be, it can be 30 degrees or it can be 45 or 50 degrees. Like you can play with that. And don't judge your yarn until you've skeined it. So until you've actually taken it off the bobbin and you've skeined it and washed it and finished it, you'll be amazed at how amazing our yarns are after they bloom and finish. It's really quite incredible. Sherry, who's also in the chat today, Prairie Firebird, she has been spinning her luxury fibers along. So a lot of people have been working through their Sanjo spinning boxes, and some people had sourced fibers from elsewhere. Some people had bought some stuff. They used the discount code, but they bought some other stuff rather than buying the box. So Sherry has been spinning up her wild silks for the luxury fiber spin. She started with the Muga, spinning up 1 small bobbin of singles on her antique wheel and then plied it as a 2-ply. And now she's working on the Tassar or the Tussa. Sweaty hands are not a good thing when spinning this stuff. Darn hot flashes. Yeah. I can see how that would be really, really frustrating. Wild silk spin study, Muga. Shorts, the staple length varies from 2 to 10 inches. Remember, these tops are probably cut, so that's why the variation in the staple length. Because remember, silk doesn't have a staple, right? It's cut. It spins fairly easily from lengths of top end to end, fairly flyaway, and needs to be handled lightly when spinning to avoid fiber waste. That is a really good observation, Sherry. For her Tussa, the staple length was 3 to 12.5 inches. So the cut pieces were varied quite a lot as well. And it spins easily from lengths of top, but she found the fiber very airy and flyaway. So she preferred the short lengths stripped in half. Also need to handle minimally to avoid waste. Spinning methods tried include short forward, short backward, long draw, and staple length folded over the finger. preferred short forward to short backward. I think Sherry makes some really, really good comments about all of her silk studies so far. Handling it very, very lightly, very gently, and really, and as you're playing around with different spinning methods, you know, reflecting on how much fiber is too much in your fiber supply hand, how can you handle it well, and what are you going for when you're spinning? You know, the Tussa She Reflects has more of a halo than that of the Muga. So, you know, that's something to think about as well. I found that too. My Tassar, which is the dark brown that I spun, the peduncle, it's got much more of a halo than some of my other yarns. This is the other one. I think this is Barble. I'm not sure. She shares BB2. She's spun the Tussa silk, and apparently the advice from me was very helpful to use a bowl and split the fiber lengthwise. She pre-drafted a little bit, and she says she maybe shouldn't have done this because the fiber became very fluffy. I don't tend to pre-draft my silks very much. I tend to sort of leave them. I do strip them down, but I don't tend to pre-draft them. She hardly could tame them, and the singles turned out really inconsistent. She spun short backward. The unfinished skeins turned several times, but after she washed the skeins, they hung flat. They hung straight down and they were balanced. So 2 swatches, one is 2-plied and one is chain-plied, and she had some knitted samples to share as well. This is her chain-plied one here, and the one that you just saw was the 2-ply. Really, really fun. I spun mulberry silk some time ago, worsted, short forward, at least she tried to, made a 2-ply and knitted the ranunculus top, and was very surprised to find it pill quite a bit. You probably need more twist. Yeah, you probably need more twist. I think I'm still okay on my end. Are you guys, maybe if you refresh. It sounds like some people have lost me. We've got a little bit more of Zero to Hero, and the show is getting quite long. So I think what we'll do, oh, you guys came back. Maybe it was just a little glitch because I didn't lose anything on my side. Okay, so our next one was from Debbie. I love this. So Debbie, this is for her natural shades along and for the Zero to Hero. Debbie shares finished blocked and she loves it. To be honest, she was a bit worried about how it turned out, but as she had not actually planned for this wool to be a jacket, but the construction of the Maragique, I'm not sure how to say that, made me try it out. Just needed to get it on my needles. It's her Cobra Fox wool. So if you guys have never heard of Cobra Fox, definitely Google it. She's got these beautiful sheep, and she washed, carded, and naturally dyed and spun herself this sweater. I just love this sweater. Debbie, you look amazing and beautiful to be able to showcase a different type of wool. This is Zero to Hero, or sorry, no, this is 51 Yarns Group B. So they're working currently on coils, core spun, and super coils and cables. So Nicole shares that she's fine. I think Nicole's in the chat today, actually. Co-Burger Fox. So think Co-Burger Fox, all one word, Co-Burger Fox. Co-Burger, so like burger, eating a burger, Fox, all one word, Co-Burger Fox. Nicole shares she's finally able to get some spinning done. It feels like it's been forever. So here is my cabled yarn. I wanted to try cabled yarn for socks. So she spun the singles at about 30 wraps per inch, giving her a finished yarn of about 18 wraps per inch after plying and washing. And then she also shared her coil yarn, which I am obsessed with. It is so beautiful. She spun this over the holidays and totally forgot to take pictures. So she wove a couple of scarves and used this yarn as texture at the end of the scarves. The yarn was spun from a bat with many different fibers and silk. It was a super fun yarn, and she'll definitely be doing more. Isn't that beautiful? I just love it. So, Co-Burger Fox. You guys are making me laugh trying to figure it out. Here, let me copy and paste it. Co-Burger. You guys make me laugh. Let me just stop. And our final community participation was from Maria. She started to experiment with cabled yarns, and she carded some dyed blue textile locks, mohair, Finn, and I think it's Aland, A-L-A-N-D, but it's got one of the circles over the A, sheep fibers together mostly with her drum carder and some hand cards. She tried dizzing the fiber off the carder. She tried to read the intentional spinner, but she did not find but she could not find how she recommends to spin the singles, so she decided to spin long draw. Her first sample, she spun to, so she goes through which one is which. So she found that some of her yarns were quite balanced and some of them were unbalanced, but then after washing, they sort of worked themselves out. Her singles were a bit more even and thin, and the yarn became less fuzzy. She thinks, I think they look great as cabled yarns, actually. She'll try to knit with these and see how they work. It's very interesting. What kind of drafting do you prefer for cabled yarns? So Maria sort of asked this question, and this is actually why I wanted to feature this, because I thought that you guys could maybe share, for those of you who've made cabled yarns, what you prefer, how you prefer to spin the singles, because she's sort of tried quite a few different things here with varying results. Now, so I'll speak to my personal preference, and that is that because cabled yarns are being spun as singles one way, you're applying a 2-ply the other way, and then you're cabling the other way again. So you're going ZSZ or SZS, depending on how you want your yarn to finish, because that makes a difference. We talked about that quite a lot on the podcast a while ago about untwisting and twisting your yarns when you're knitting with them. In the cabled yarns, you need to be aware which way you twist and untwist. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I like to spin my singles worsted. So I don't tend to spin short forward, but this is the one time that I would. I made all of my cabled yarns that I've made in the past continuous back with smoothing. So draft back, smooth, wind on, and I smooth quite intentionally. And I find you get the nicest cable definition when you go to cable your yarn. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful colors in the cable and the spiral. Well done. That was for Nicole's yarns. You guys are talking about the Coburger wool. I've done worsted yarns with cables. I found that in the long wools, it doesn't, that don't have a lot of elasticity, the cable structure gives a little bit of that. Exactly. Great. That's actually a really good point, Megan. Yeah. Wonderful. I'm just looking at chat, making sure that I didn't miss anything, but it looks like I'm all caught up on everything. So again, thank you for sticking around for a longer show, and we have so much to talk about. And of course, when we've got a little bit of housekeeping to cover at the beginning of the show, it does make the shows a little bit longer. But I just want to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to those who were at book club yesterday. We had a really lovely conversation about North and South. Becca is going to record our book clubs from now on, so that if you're in the Slack channel and part of that community, you can go back and watch them later and be a part of the conversation, and then share your reflections on the Slack channel, so that if you can't always make it, you're still able to participate and read along with us and share those reflections on the Slack channel. So the links are there for you. Becca's going to be taking care of that. For our anti-racist book club, we are starting, we're actually reading now Empire of Cotton. And I think we're doing the first 5 chapters? And for North and South, we're currently working on the next 8 chapters. So up to chapter 16. So we're just getting into North and South. They're a really good pair to read together at the same time. Because they both are about the cotton industry. They're both about sort of industrialization, and they're just a really good parallel read. So for those who are able to get a hold of one or both of those books, hopefully you'll join us. And we had a really lovely conversation yesterday. It was really great to see everybody. So, and thank you to Becca for facilitating that, because we keep asking her if she wants to keep doing it, and she keeps saying yes. So we have to make sure that we thank her. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Queries and Explorations will be starting in a few minutes for those who are part of that. Have a wonderful, safe week. Stay well, stay calm, all of that kind of stuff. I hope that you're getting lots of time at your wheels and lots of time to spin and lots of time to make, and that it's rejuvenating and refreshing and relaxing and all those things. And until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy dreaming. Bye, everyone.